Hey guys, today your lesson for Wednesday, October 7th is about global wind belts. Okay, so you guys have to watch this video. You need this review before you do the activity that you're supposed to do today. So make sure you click the attendance link so that you can get credit for being here today, and we'll get started. We have a couple of task cards that we want to do with you. We want to go over the answers now so that you know the answers. There will be nothing you have to turn in for these task cards. The only assignment that you have to do today is an ed puzzle, which I will talk more about after we go over these task cards. So make sure you listen, you pay attention, and you feel comfortable with this information. All right, task card number 1, the force of air molecules pushing on an area. So this is the force or the weight of all the molecules in the air pushing down, whether you're at sea level or on a mountain. So the definition of this is air pressure, right? Card number 1 is air pressure. Number 2, when air is heated, it becomes less dense and it rises. Have you ever heard the phrase warm air rises, cold air sinks? Warm air, in fact, does rise because as it goes up, the molecules inside of the warm air are really far apart, so it's less dense. Now, as cool air becomes more dense or heavier, it sinks. So for number 2, when air is heated, it becomes less dense and rises. As air cools, it becomes more dense and sinks. Card number 3, rising air creates blank air pressure at Earth's surface. So if you have air above land and the land's getting hot, that warm air rises up, leaving behind an empty area below it, so it essentially creates low air pressure. Card number 4 is the opposite. This time we're looking at sinking air, so this is our cool air. When the air gets cold and it falls and sinks down, it leaves behind an empty area above it, so sinking air creates high air pressure at Earth's surface. Card number 5, air that moves horizontally or parallel to the ground. This is just a silly definition for wind. It's talking about wind for number 5. Wind is air that moves horizontally, obviously not vertically. We know our winds blow left and right, not up and down. Number 6, winds that travel thousands of kilometers in steady patterns. So these are winds that cover very large areas if it's traveling thousands of kilometers. These are your global winds. So remember the word global means large, it affects huge areas. So the wind belts that travel thousands of kilometers in steady patterns will be your global winds. Remember that your local winds occur over a small area or a localized area, right? So these are just breezes or wind that affects smaller areas. Global winds are your winds that travel thousands of kilometers. Number 7, the influence of Earth's rotation on objects or matter in motion. When we went over your notes, we talked to you about how Earth is a sphere and it rotates on its axis. And because of this motion and this rotation, our winds blow side to side or left to right. They blow in a curved manner. Well, the whole idea is that this happens because of something we call the Coriolis effect. So the Coriolis effect is what makes our winds curve because of Earth's rotation. It also is what's responsible for your ocean current movement as well. Number 8, in the northern hemisphere, winds curve to the right due to the Coriolis effect. So the northern hemisphere is where we live. It's above the equator. When the Earth is rotating, the Coriolis effect causes the winds to first curve right before making its circular path. Number 9 talks about the southern hemisphere. So from the equator down is the southern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, winds curve to the left due to the Coriolis effect. So those winds below the equator curve first to the left before making its circle. Number 10, Earth's rotation and uneven heating of its surface cause a pattern of wind belts separated by pressure zones. You know that some areas of Earth receive direct sunlight, like at the equator, right? So the Earth is spinning on its axis. The sun hits right at the equator. At the poles, it receives indirect sunlight, right? It still sees sunlight, but those rays are indirect. So the surfaces of Earth get heated unevenly. And because of this uneven heating, it causes differences in high and low pressure. Okay, so that essentially is what's creating our wind belts. Number 11, this is the wind belt located between 0 and 30 degrees north and south. This is also the wind belt that we talk about where the sailors used it when they were importing and exporting goods to different areas. This is the wind belt that helped them move their ships. So from the 0 to 30 degree mark, number 11 is the trade winds. Number 12, the wind belt located between 30 and 60 degrees north and south. This is the wind belt that greatly impacts us. So where we are in the United States, we fall between 30 and 60 degrees. So this wind belt is the main wind belt that brings us our weather, and it is called the prevailing westerlies. Number 13, the wind belt located between 60 and 90 degrees north and south. This is the wind belt that's at your poles. So these are your polar easterlies. They blow from the east to the west. Number 14, a low pressure zone that forms as the trade winds converge at the equator. So if the trade winds are 0 to 30 degrees, where it hits the equator is at 0 degrees. So that area right at 0 degrees where there's low pressure, there's rising warm air, little to no wind, these are your doldrums. So number 14 is doldrums. Number 15, a high pressure zone that forms between the trade winds and the westerlies. Well, your trade winds end at 30 degrees, and that's where your westerlies start. So that 30 degree mark, north and south, we refer to as the horse latitudes. And remember that the horse latitudes supposedly get their name because this is an area of calm winds where when sailors or people that were traveling, when they would hit this area at 30 degrees, they would lighten their load by throwing their horses overboard. Also, it would save on food, it would save on drink, more for the people. So they'd toss their horses overboard so that they would have enough resources to last them until they got to their location, and also to lighten the load so that the winds could move their ships easier. Okay, so that, number 15, is horse latitudes. We are skipping number 16 and going to number 18 because we're skipping 17 too. Number 18, name the wind belt located at letter A. Letter A is between 0 and 30 degrees. These are our big areas of trade. So this area is considered the area where you will find trade winds. Number 19, name the wind belt located at B. B is in between 30 and 60. This is the area that impacts us here in North Carolina. And 30 to 60 degrees brings us our weather. It blows from west to east. These are our prevailing westerlies. Number 20, name the wind belt located at C. C is right at our North Pole. It'll be down there at our South Pole too. These are your polar easterlies. They're cold, dry winds, and they blow from east to west. 21, name the zone that's located at D. D is right on the equator. What is that area that we were talking about with really dull winds, very hot, not much going on here, very calm? These are your doldrums at 0 degrees. And the last one we're going to do, number 22, name the zone at E. E is right on that 30 degree mark. What is it that we referred to at the 30 degree mark where there were calm winds and the sailors would dump their animals overboard? Yes, these are our horse latitudes at 30 degrees. Okay? So going over all that information I just shared with you with the global winds, you guys are going to go to the classwork tab in Google Classroom, and you're going to find the Ed puzzle that your teacher has assigned you for today. It is a super quick, maybe 4-minute video, and it pauses certain times throughout the video to make sure you're listening and following along, and it asks you a question. All of them are going to be multiple choice, and they're all going to pull from the information from the video, which will be global winds, which is exactly what we just went over, okay? So make sure you're listening, you're trying your best, you want to score really well on this, okay? So when you get off of here, make sure you hop onto the Edpuzzle, answer those questions, and that is all you're responsible for today. If you have any questions, please shoot an email out to your teachers and we will be more than happy to help you.